All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Move on to item A, presentation of acceptance of fiscal year 2012-17 audit by Matt Bingham, Colby, and Powell. Mr. Todd?
Okay, this is the 2012-2013 audit. It's the next step in completing our audits and getting up to date. The other auditing firm, Hinton Burdock, wasn't able to attend tonight, so Mr. Bingham has graciously agreed to present it for us.
All right, as Todd mentioned, we're not the audit firm. We're kind of assisting the town with its accounting, and so I'm just presenting the audit tonight, and kind of enlisted the help of Ruby to help me with my slides here. So I want to go ahead and hit the page down button. Hinton Burdick, they audited the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2013. So about almost 3 years ago. When they did the audit, governmental entities, I've talked about this in the past, their financial reporting is a bit different than for a for-profit entity. There's multiple opinion units embedded within your financial statements, and that they're giving their opinion on. And so I've listed all those opinion units that they've given their opinion on for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2013. And it looks like there's nine or 10 units there. And we're pleased to report that they were able to give a clean, unmodified opinion on each of those units, which in years past has been an issue. But this year, they issued a clean opinion. Ruby, if you want to. They performed their audit in accordance with professional standards, and there's actually 2 sets of standards that they used. The second step is government auditing standards. The reason for using 2 sets of standards is that anytime you receive federal funds, you're required to use that second set of standards to perform the audit. When they come to do the audit, they're not able to look at every transaction. It's impossible. So what they do is they take a risk-based approach, and they gain an understanding of your internal controls, interview management, and then they make a decision on the risky areas of the audit and focus their attention on those areas. And Ruby, if you want to. As part of that process, as I mentioned earlier, they look at your internal controls, and that first bullet point gives the definition of what your internal controls are, or what they are. And they don't, as part of the audit, they don't give an opinion on your internal controls, but if an issue comes up, as they're performing their audit procedures, if there's an internal control issue that comes to their attention that they consider is significant enough, they're required to report it. And there's 2 levels of significance that require reporting. The lower level is a significant deficiency. The worst level is a material weakness. So I've listed there were a couple of internal control findings that they found as part of the audit. Ruby, if you can hit the slide. I've listed those out. So there's 1 material weakness finding, and 2 significant deficiencies, which, like I said, are a little bit lower level than a material weakness. And then in addition to those findings, for internal controls, there were 2 issues related to noncompliance with laws and regulations. And so in their audit report, they've detailed out those findings, and those can be found actually starting on page 39 of their audit report, on page 39 of their audit report. And so if you want to read, I've kind of written the titles next to each finding, and if you want to read through that page 39 to gain more understanding and details on those findings, that's available there on that page. Next, I just wanted to talk a little bit, kind of step away from the audit. I don't know first if there's any questions regarding the audit itself. I wanted to, take a kind of two-part approach, talk about the audit and then talk about some of the financial highlights for that fiscal year that they're auditing. So before I move forward, I don't know if there's any questions regarding the audit itself. If not, I can, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about financial highlights for that fiscal year. I know it was 3 years ago, but just want to hit on some of the highs and lows of that year. So, Ruby, if you can, if you look at the financial statements themselves, there's a lot of information in there. I think the total report's close to 50 pages, if not 50 pages or more. But so there's a lot of information in there. But a good place to start when you look at the financial statements are to look at the fund financials. That basically, and look specifically at the general fund. The general fund balance gives you a good indicator of your financial health. So as that number, as your fund balance increases, financially you're improving. As that number decreases, it has the opposite effect. So what I've done is I've taken your general fund balance for 2013 and prior, and I've gone back 4 years and kind of put it on a graph of what's been happening. So as you can see, it's there's a little anomaly there in 2011, but it's steadily gotten worse. That's actually negative, close to $3 million, or it's actually over $3 million in 2013. But in 2012, it didn't change too much, so that indicates that maybe we were able to kind of halt what was happening and just kind of hit kind of maintenance mode and stay kind of steady from that point. But Ruby, if you want to hit the so yeah, it's a little over $3 million negative of fund balance. And so what we've had to do over years past, and I think everybody's aware of this, that to maintain our operations and to pay the bills, we've had to borrow the money. And the money has had to come from borrowing from PERF and excise tax monies. And so as mentioned earlier in the meeting, the Auditor General has been aware of this issue and they've been auditing this. And so I've kind of listed here some ideas to kind of help with ceasing or improving our issue related to our HERF borrowing. And there's 2 items here. We can kind of decrease our borrowing. We can bring in more money than we spend. And the other part is without increasing our overall budget, we try to spend all of our HERF money during the year and not try to carry that forward. So what I've done here is I've laid out a graph of what our HERF borrowing has been for the last 4 years. And you can see in 2010 it's kind of increased, and then 2013, good news, it's gone down. And so I want to point out why that happened. So Ruby, if you can hit the next slide. So as I mentioned earlier, 2 ways that we can decrease our HERF borrowing, and I've listed those out again. And so we brought in more non-HERF excise tax monies than spent. Yes, we did that during this fiscal year. What happened is our utility fund made some money. So we were able to shift that borrowing from HERF over now we're borrowing from the utilities fund, which is not a good thing, but at least those monies aren't restricted. The second bullet point is that we weren't able to spend all of our HERF money during 2013. We only spent about half of it. So no, we weren't able to meet that goal, I guess, or that bullet point. But we did. Go ahead. Question?
Just a question real quick on the HERF money. You say that you recommend that we spend them all. My question is,
without increasing your overall budget, we don't want you to go spend more. We just want to spend more on streets.
It's within the realm of what it's for.
Yes,
so
exactly.
that we can account for it.
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, because it can only be used for streets, so
Yeah,
to
no.
prevent us from borrowing
So-
from it.
If we only use it for streets and we use it for what it's designated for, the surplus of money, if we put it in an account where I think they had it in the, I think it's directly deposited to Chase, so that account, is that, can that money be repaid to the HERF after it gains interest there?
Well, we can't look at it really as like an
Money?
actual loan.
As actual money?
Yeah, we can't, it's like paying money to ourselves. It doesn't work that way. But, so really, all we can do is, like I mentioned earlier on the slide, is we can try to spend all the HERF money for streets without increasing our overall budget. And also we can try to make money or have more net income. And that way, that will decrease the HERF borrowing by doing that. So bringing in more money than we spend is the key. So.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions. And the questions are on the actual audit findings. So the first one, lack of documentation. Our response is management agrees with this finding and is working to improve record retention policies and procedures. So I guess this question is to our town managers, and I know I'm kind of just throwing this at you, but who owns this action and what's the timeline for target completion dates?
Some of these procedures always already been implemented, but the lack of documentation, we're talking about several years ago, and it's very difficult for us to go back retroactively and solve things. I've sent council some emails about our financial accounting, our filing systems, and we're going to be addressing those. We've already started reorganizing our file system in accordance with what Coley and Powell agrees is the appropriate way to do it. The debit cards, there are no current debit cards for the town. They are no longer in our possession. We are not applying for any more. If we need to use revolving credit accounts, we will be asking the council for permission to apply for those independently. So that solves the debit card issue. Going forward, again, records, right now we're going to have to put some work into fixing our file system in order to bring it into easy auditable condition. And that's one of the large projects that we're a little manpower short on right now. So, but we are going to be working on that.
So is there a date where we're anticipating we'll have these completed?
My goal, if I'm still here, of course we're hiring new people for positions, but the goal is to have this in place for the next fiscal year. So our next fiscal year is a clean, auditable from day one. I will be bringing council a few recommendations on how we can streamline our financial procedures and our filing systems so that we can have them ready within 30 days, reconciled from the end of the month, and ready for audit. So we're always within 30 days of an end of the month that is ready for audit, no matter when it is. So it's a lofty goal, but I think it's doable with better financial procedures.
Okay. And I have received those reports, and thank you. We were always told that that was impossible, so thanks for making the impossible possible.
As far as for me, that's the end of my presentation. I don't know if there's any additional questions for me.
Well, I know you weren't the auditing firm, but thank you for presenting for them. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming and thank you for the information.